All right, AOAO, welcome back
to your Everyday Rich podcast.
Yeah. Thanks for joining. So, your Everyday Rich podcast is a podcast by us two Asian people here. Your host, Jason. This is Jen. And Everyday Rich is essentially a podcast about living room conversations circling around financial literacy and things that you may not really talk about outside of your living room, but you might have asked yourself in your own living room about money, investing, and kind of wealth building, and kind of give yourself a question like, well, how do I live my everyday rich? How does that really work with the money part and things around that? And today we are actually interviewing two lovely people that we met over the past, I'm gonna say, year and change in our real estate circle. So yes, another real estate people. But the reason why we want to bring them on was how they were kind of approaching their journey, right? We'll get into the background of kind of how we met them and everything, but we really enjoyed hearing kind of their side of their upbringings, but also kind of like where their mindset is in this whole thing of investing, and also kind of taking control of that whole financial journey. But before we get started, we want to shout out our good friends at Plantwell Inc. Been trying to like say this like really quickly, but Plantwell Inc. is the kind of your number one top spot hydroponics place, store, retail outlet in Milton. So for all you grower enthusiasts, so whether you're growing your plants, tomatoes, lettuce, or arugula, or some other grassy products, go check them out there for all your supplement and nutritional needs there to grow stuff.
Or if you want to learn.
Yeah, they're pretty good at that too. So, but
let's get started.
Without further ado, we want to introduce our guests, Gordon
and Brittany.
But Gordon Leung, right? And Brittany Tang. Is that right, guys? Is that right?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Okay.
It was like you forgot our names or something. Like you said it with like a question mark.
I know.
Confirmed?
Yeah.
Also known as Team Grit.
Yeah, Team Grit Properties. Welcome. Full disclaimer, we are recording in the evening right now, and we have our kids that are trying to fall asleep, and one of them is peeking his head in right now. And I want to be totally transparent with that, because this is kind of how it works.
This is the reality.
This is the reality. Can you go to sleep?
Jeremy, go to sleep. Okay. Good night.
Stop touching your penis.
You guys are keeping it real. I mean, if our equipment falls over, it's probably because of our cat. So
yeah.
I'm hoping the cat come in your angle too.
He's camera shy. I don't know.
But yeah, no. Thank you very much for coming on, guys. It's been a long time. We've been really interested and excited to interview you guys and just have this kind of living room conversation with you. Because really, like, where did we meet? We met through the real estate mentorship program, right? That we both were part of. And really, I mean, I think I just saw Gordie and Brit. I'm just like, hey, who are those stunning Asian people?
So here we are.
But really, after just talking to you guys, right? Like just hearing kind of your story, like it kind of reminded us of like kind of where our heads was. But you're like miles ahead of where we were in terms of like at your age. Mm-hmm. So I guess do you want to do a quick intro, kind of like yourself, you guys, and like what Team Grit's all about. And
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
thanks for having us, guys. Yeah, my name's Gordon Brittany. We formed Team Grit Properties. I guess just a high 30-second quick intro on us. We are a real estate investment company. We specialize in duplex, triplex conversions, based out of primarily Welland and the Niagara regions. So we've been doing that pretty extensively over the last year and a half. But we've been real estate investors in the back end over the last, I'd say, like 5 to 10 years, investing in condos and all that in Toronto. So, yeah.
And I think like a recent thing that we're specializing in, because I think everyone's hurting from a cash flow perspective, recently started doing like Airbnb. So I would say that's another one of our specializations. That's been a recent skill that we've learned.
so you guys started investing 10 years ago. Is that what I heard?
Yeah. Like, I mean, before we got together, we were both separately investing in condos in Toronto.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
And yeah, like, I mean,
Probably like due to the Asian parent mentality of like, no, why are you wasting money on rent? Like, you need to save your money, and if you're moving out, then you must buy something. So
that's
Mhm.
right.
I think pretty like soon after we graduated, we both separately bought our own condos downtown. So I guess that was our first instance of like, I don't know, investing in things and eventually renting those out as well. So it's been a while, I guess.
So speaking of your parents, like you mentioned investing, did you guys want to go investing because your parents told you to, or is that something you kind of picked up on your own? Like what was it like growing up, like when it came to like money and investing and stuff like that?
I think for me, my parents were always in investing. My dad is a real estate agent. And I
Mhm.
guess Gordon forgot to say, like, he's also a mortgage broker. And the
right.
reason why he's a broker is my dad wanted me to do it and I was too lazy. So I said, Gordon, here, you like side hustles. So why don't you try this? And it's actually been one of the best, I guess, side hustles that stuck for him. So I think, yeah, my parents have been like, I guess, a strong influence when it comes to real estate and investing.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And Gordon's is the opposite.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, I would say, like, I mean, investing wise, I've always been surrounded by investing strategies. Not so much in real estate, but more so in stocks.
Okay.
And then, you know, just gravitated more towards real estate. I would say probably during the COVID years a lot more, when we realized just the flexibility and the power of that asset class, and just kind of geared more of our energy towards that.
So then, Britt, that's interesting to hear, right? Like having your dad, right, as a real estate agent, right? So that is real estate agent. So then you were exposed to that kind of as you were like young. How did you saying? Like ever since you were a kid?
Yeah, I think like throughout my, I guess, childhood, like early years, parents were immigrants, so it's like they saved a lot and then eventually like got our houses, like got our home, and then after that my dad would invest in other rental properties. When I was in university, like he owned the house that we lived in, so him and like a business partner would have some investment properties like throughout our childhood, and they still have it today. So I think it was a little bit easier to talk to my parents about this when we were saying like, oh, we're going to buy all these properties and, you know, do all these renovations. So they were like a lot more understanding, while also trying to tell us what to do. But at least they weren't like, you're crazy getting all of these, mortgages under our names.
Oh, that's really cool because like we haven't run across too many people yet where they've had like a huge influence in their childhood.
One person.
One person, yeah.
Steph.
Yeah, that's right.
Jonathan Steph.
Yeah, Jonathan.
Oh, yeah.
Because her dad is was he a real estate agent or did he invest in real estate? I can't remember. One of the two.
I gotta go back, but episode, we'll forget which episode it was, but we interviewed them already.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. But the whole thing about, because it's very typical of like immigrant parents coming over, like the whole save mentality. It's risky to invest, right? Don't put your money away out there. It's just put it under the mattress kind of thing. Just buy mutual funds kind of stuff.
Right.
So it is neat to hear that perspective from you growing up
Mm-hmm.
and how that kind of trickled over to like obviously kind of where you guys are now and how that's kind of shaped your investing journey. And then you met Gordie and then, you know, gave him
Yeah.
the
So did
Kool-Aid.
you guys talk about investing on your first date? Like, we're gonna invest in real estate together.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely not. Come on, guys. There wouldn't be a second date after that.
Where'd you guys go for your first date? An open house?
yeah. Actually, you know what? When we were dating, we actually would like to go and like look at like model homes and like actually go walk through houses.
We'd go to model homes, but we also go through like we drive through like really nice areas.
Yeah.
Too. Like we still do it every once in a while, but definitely it gave a lot of inspiration.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like Mississauga Road, right? Well,
Yeah. Yeah, Lakeshore.
Oh my god!
Yeah, I would say definitely not the
$1,000,000.
first few dates, guys. Like, I mean, but to each its own, right? Yeah.
Okay, cool. So then, like, okay, so condos starting out, and then you did mention how your parents still own some of these properties that they originally invested in.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, like, you've obviously seen that the power of what that's been able to do for them. And is that something that really kind of resonated with you to just say, hey, well, I've seen my parents be able to do this. Like, this is something I need to do. Because you mentioned like during COVID, you guys really ramped up, right? So was there something that kind of made it click where it was like, I got to do it now. I got to like jump in now.
If I'm being honest, seeing my parents do that, I didn't really think about it because I was probably just young and just living life. But I don't know. I think it's something, and maybe Gordon, you can answer it after, but something clicked for Gordon way before me, like during, I don't know when it happened in COVID, but I think overall Gordon has always been doing like side hustles and I never paid attention, or like I just didn't want to do any of that.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I'm supportive, you can do it, but like I never wanted to help or anything. And then once he just really got obsessed with it, or really just like got educated, and he kind of like explained it to me, and then talking to some of our friends that you guys know too, Brendan and Carolina, it just kind of like made sense. Like some of the other things I don't think I could have like connected to or saw maybe like the long-term gain out of it, but this is just, there was like a formula. You do it, you follow this, and is like you work really hard and it actually can pay off. So that one, just real estate just kind of clicked for me as something that actually made sense to do. So that's kind of how it happened for me. And then it was just easier when like we wanted to do it. My parents were like supportive, but I'm not sure what kind of tipped Gordon over the edge.
Yeah.
The edge. You sound like we're falling off a cliff or something.
Well, yeah, you know, and Brittany makes jokes about this all the time, but I've always been into passive income, right? Like that's always been the thing where I've tried to, you know, like read as much as possible, like learn on YouTube and just get 1,000 different ideas on how to do it, right? And you know, I played around with a bunch of different businesses before, drop shipping. I've done you know, subscription types of services, and then, you know, just really landing on, I got really into dividend investing, and then realizing how much capital you actually need to be able to do, you know, like live off your dividends. Like it's unless you're just sitting on a pile of cash, it's kind of hard to do, right? And be able to, you know, maintain a certain lifestyle, especially in Toronto, right? So yeah, we really got into real estate. I think that's the asset class that made sense for us. You know, we already had a bit of a background on it. We knew a lot of people doing it. And really, you know, just being a mortgage broker as well, we also saw a lot of success in just clients being able to leverage that asset class and keep building wealth, right? And so it just became kind of a no-brainer for us at the time. And we just kind of devoted all our energy and time into it, and kind of where we are now. So
I do have to say one thing. I think Gordon lied to me. I feel like I'm scammed because he was like passive income. I was like, yeah, this is great. It sounds so like easy. Biggest lie of my life.
It's a lot of work.
You know what?
Yes.
We're gonna get to all that smoke very soon. Okay, so hold that thought in terms of passive income. because it's been a big topic around, I think, generally in a lot of investor circles, whether it's, business building communities, real estate investors, stock investors, this whole passive income thing of just buying a bunch of assets and then, or businesses or stocks or whatever, and passive income just trickles through.
Yeah, you just sit there and do nothing.
Just sit there and do jack shit. Right?
Yeah.
And it's like, poop. Oh, look at my bank account. It just keeps going up and up and up. Right. So we will tackle that a little bit later. So hold that thought. But something in terms of what you were mentioning before. So before all this real estate, like, I guess I want to caveat, like, you guys are working 9 to 5, right? Like, you guys work 9 to 5, right? Continue to work. I'd imagine it was this kind of like focus on your kind of career, building up your career, and also your side hustles, but focusing on your career. And then you said dividend investing and a few things like that. So what was some of the typical things that you were doing, like, before really diving into the real estate piece, like from an investing standpoint? Was it just RRSPs,
Stocks,
like your employer plans?
Yeah, like just taking advantage of any like employer plans where they match, right? I think typical, when we first started investing, it really was just dumping things in mutual funds and not knowing where it goes. Like just trying to find something that fits your risk tolerance, and then realizing, oh, like there's huge management expense fees for these things. Like I might as well self-invest and go into like Questrade or something that is a little bit more self-directed. And then at least personal journey for myself, I dove into index investing just because it was like I would say, a foolproof way to kind of just participate in the market at a diversified scale. And so I got into that a little bit, and then really dove into dividend investing and kind of the index stocks there, just because it was a little bit more like it played along with the whole passive income thing, right? Like, oh, your check comes in every quarter or every month, depending on what you invest in, right? So that's kind of what we've been playing around, and then realizing, especially during COVID, that it wasn't generating as high of a return that we needed it to be, right? And we had these goals in mind of where we wanted to be a few years from now, and it wasn't going to get there unless we came across a substantial amount of capital, right? Like, I'm sure you guys are probably thinking the same thing as well, and why you need to pivot your strategies, right?
Yeah.
So what in terms of where your head was when you were doing that? So you mentioned like the goals, right? So part of like this whole your everyday rich is like how you want to structure your life. How do you want to lifestyle by design kind of thing? What was that everyday rich that you envisioned? Like, what was that goal for you guys? Is that something that you're okay sharing?
Yeah, I mean, you want me to go? I mean, we talk about this too, and I think that target keeps changing as you grow and as you build up your investments. But like for us, it really came down to the freedom of time, right? We've always talked about just being able to not be feeling like you're fully dependent on one source of income, and being able to just go on the trips that you want to go to without having to think about money, right? Like not to like just blow money away, but I mean to the point where you're comfortable, right? Like there's a certain level of living and standard of living that we want to get to. Everyone's level is a little bit different, but for us, like we had something in mind where it's just like just being able to take trips whenever we wanted to, and be able to invest in just businesses or run businesses that are a little bit more remote and a little bit more passive to give us that time back, right? So I think that's probably like the primary driver amongst like other, I would say, materialistic things that motivate us, but that's the primary driver, I'd say, right?
What kind of materialistic things? I'm always curious because Jen's materialistic things, I just go like, okay, whatever, man, whatever.
I mean, for us, we've always had it on our dream board that we would have like an investment property overseas or something that we can take advantage of, a cottage, right? Like, I mean, nice. For me growing up, like I was surrounded with people that had access to cottages, but I would never it would just never occur to me. It's like that would never be in the realm of possibility for us, right? And I think we're in a point in our lives where we can think about that, or at least dream about these things and try to figure out a game plan and get there, right? So, materialistically, that's something that we want to get to, right? That's a goal of ours. I'd say in the next like 5 or 10 years, right? Like trying to get something like that we can pass down to our kids and be able to allow our friends to use it with us and have that have the fun associated with that, right? And so, yeah.
Well, in 10 years, you'll be 32. So, like, that'll be perfect. It's awesome.
Yeah, we're little babies to you guys, eh?
Yeah.
The whole cottage thing is really, really appealing to us as well, right? Something.
It's like a lifestyle investment, right?
It is. And I think part of it, like when I grew up, I didn't have a cottage, but I actually had access to a cottage through my uncle, which if I were able to paint a picture of what this cottage looks like, it's more like a cabin. It's like a log cabin where it had no running heat, no
running water.
Running water, but from the well.
Yeah.
From the river.
It wasn't filtered, essentially.
It's filtered, but it's not potable. I didn't really want to take a shower in that place. We had to lug all our water, and there was no air conditioning, and there was bugs everywhere. So it was one of these cottages where I grew up around cottages being that type of style. Like it was like camping. I was camping within a wood structure. Whereas now, if we kind of obviously the cottages through being accessible through Airbnb, and
they're beautiful.
So much competition to have these like luxury lifestyle plays. It's completely night and day. Like, I wouldn't even know how to like explain going to that with our kids, because our kids are so spoiled now going to these like fancy cottages.
So am I.
Yes, you are. But back to the whole thing, right? Is that whole your memory of like cottages or your exposure to a cottage or something, something along the way made you feel like I'd like to have that in my lifestyle, right? And so growing up with when you're younger and stuff like that, was money kind of tight? I just want to touch one more thing with your childhood, like, but was money tight, or like was it more of a scarcity thing of like, hey, like we have to hold on to our money, but we also know we need to grow it? Did you feel one way or the other in terms of that when you were growing up?
You can answer that first.
So I think Gordon and I probably had pretty different childhoods in a sense. Like, I think both of our parents, immigrants, they grew up poor. And then I think, how there's the jokes and the memes where you see like, don't turn on the air conditioning, don't be let's just say Gordon lived like that. I think,
high five, Gordon. High five.
Tough skin.
I know.
I think, like for my parents, my mom, she's like, I lived in a jungle, so I'm turning on the air conditioning now. I'm not washing my own dishes. So I think, like we both saw, and like from our parents, like the value of money and how hard they work. So I think it motivated us in different ways. But yeah, I think for Gordon, it was probably like he grew up maybe a little bit more constrained. So then now he's like, oh, I want these things for myself.
Yeah, it's so interesting hearing that as well, because our perspectives when we grow up really kind of lend towards kind of how we shape our journey, right? Whereas when I hear Brit, like yourself, it's not like you were growing up privileged or anything, like money was thrown at you, but you saw it from a different angle where money was valued a different way. Like it's a tool. Ultimately, it's a tool, right? Whereas some of us, when we grew up, we just didn't know how to utilize that tool, our parents, because it was like something that they believed it was finite. But really, if you took part of it and applied it to, like you were mentioning, like, not wanting to cook or or air conditioning, right? It's like, yeah, it creates enjoyment rather than like sleeping sweaty and hot, where
it's more like it provides comfort.
Yeah. Well, yeah, a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like exactly, Gordon, like I went to sleep sweaty so many days because my dad was like, it's not hot enough. It's like, Dad, it's 35 outside. Can we please turn on the air conditioning? So like I really appreciate that perspective from both sides, because really we see that now as well, right? Whereas when we meet other people, we see like different levels of affluence, whereas we see it as, oh my God, that's like so rich, but really to them they're like, well, they're looking at someone else that's even richer, and they're just like, well, it's just perspectives for them. So
yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so then during COVID, at some point, you're like, okay, we really got to ramp up, right? So did you make the decision to ramp up before joining the real estate mentorship? Or was taking the mentorship kind of that step you needed to kind of level up?
I think they were pretty.
I think it was all very close.
Yeah, it was
I
close
think,
for sure.
Let's just say it's like when we have something that we want to do or we want or it's just stuck in our head.
Yeah,
we probably get a little bit too aggressive in terms of having to do everything now. So I think it was just like, what is it, like 1 month?
Yeah, within a month.
Within a month, it's like got in a JV partnership, like as a money partner to learn, signed up for a coaching program, and then just
redeployed all their assets, like, and cashed everything
and
out. Like
whatever we learned from the program, immediately started actioning it because we thought of it as school. And, you know, again, Asian mentality, we're like, we got to be A+ students. So they said to do this. So we're going to go do it. And it probably kicked our butt a little bit too much and probably took too much action. And we were extremely stressed at times. But yeah, I feel like when we say we're going to do something, we usually try to do it right away.
Yeah.
Well, action taking is one of the biggest hurdles for a lot of people. And we found that, I mean, just from our own perspectives and seeing other people, the analysis paralysis can really put someone in this position where it's like they want to do it, but they can't because they feel like it's never the right time. Although sometimes, like you said at the very beginning, Gordie, like your risk tolerance, depending on where you are, your risk tolerance may be higher or maybe lower, the threshold. But ultimately it comes down to like, hey, you know what? You have to take a leap of faith somehow and do something at some point, you know, because risk takers are really the ones that end up with all the gold at the end.
Yep.
You never take a risk, you're never going to get anything.
I mean, so you guys like went to a joint venture quickly, you know, with friends to learn. I think it was a duplex conversion you guys did with your joint JV partner.
That's right.
And then you guys bought another and did another duplex or a triplex conversion. I can't remember.
Yeah. So really shortly after.
It was like all of it. It's like, so our JV partnership with friends, it was a duplex. And then our first one that we bought a couple months after was a duplex. And then shortly after that, we got a triplex and then another triplex. So just kind of four in a row.
Four in a row. Bang.
So the crazy whirlwind of like, you know, having to juggle with 4 properties at a time. What was like your biggest learning from all of that?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. Where do we start? Apart from the typical being organized and all that, I think it's, for us, it's probably like, I mean, for me, I think it was like building out a team, right? Like, I think that was like one of the big lessons that we learned the last, 2 years was really how to build out a team. Like right now we have a team kind of overseas in different aspects of our business. But having a team that you can rely on is essentially a way to kind of buy back your time, right? Like instead of us drowning and doing all of this ourselves, like there's no way we would be able to be doing what we're trying to do right now without them, right?
Yeah. And I would say for me, the real answer is like giving ourselves slack. Because I think a lot of the times when you listen to podcasts, see people's stories, and they're like, oh, look, I did this project in like 3 months or 6 months. And then you're like, everyone's telling you kind of exaggerated timelines, or they exaggerate what they've done, or the numbers and all of that. So when we actually did it and we like kind of saw realistically how long things take, realizing that people overstretch the truth. So we shouldn't feel bad about if something got delayed or took a little bit longer. And then just realizing that these maybe timelines that we put on ourselves were all just like kind of made up. And it was okay for us to like slow down a little bit. And if something didn't get completed at the original time that we wanted, it was okay. Because it's like all going to be a wash later, and like we don't need to kill ourselves just to try to do this as quickly as possible. When it's probably not realistic. So I think it's just like realizing that and just being a little bit nicer to ourselves was, I think, for me the more real thing. I would say is what we learned from all of this.
It's true, right? Because I think we've all been through this. I mean, we still go through this where we see people on Instagram or anyone, doesn't matter, right? Like this whole, oh wow, they did it for that much, and when we go ask around, it's like, no, add 30%.
Yeah.
It's like, what? How they do that then, right? And part of it is we feel like, socials, obviously made for one thing. In real life, you encounter different variables that, it's not always the case. It's not always unicorn. But you're mentioning how, like, to give yourself slack and really let it play out the way it plays out, but being very intentional in terms of, like, obviously completing it, right? Because you didn't just sit around and be like, oh my God, it's taking long, and cry in a corner. You guys went and, like, figured out ways to make it work. And you're mentioning, like, also, okay, things had to change at some point, right? Because you bought 4 in a row, and this was over the last 2 years. And at some point, obviously, the environment changes, right? So part of that strategy, when you built out your team as well, giving yourself slack, what did you have to change? Because originally you went in with duplex, triplex, right?
Yeah.
And these were all originally, was the intent long-term rental at first?
Yeah. Originally, all of them were going to be long-term because, that magical fake word of passive income. That's what we were trying to do. But I think, like I said earlier, because of, everyone kind of feeling this, I guess, struggle of getting positive cash flow properties, that's when we shifted our strategy to convert some of our units into short-term rentals.
Right. Okay. So here's the thing, right? And I know there was a lot of, like, negativity around this where it was, people were like, okay, you know what? We have to consider Airbnbs. And a lot of people were like, oh, don't do Airbnbs. Like, Airbnbs are it's not going to work, especially in the city that you're in. And it's a huge risk, blah, blah, blah. But I remember talking to you guys and I was thinking, I was like, well, what's the alternative, right? Like, what's the alternative to not taking that risk again and just sitting with negative cash, like huge negative cash flow
with a long-term rental?
And I know you guys made that conscious decision to, like, pivot and go Airbnb. So bring us through this whole pivoting to Airbnb, because Airbnb is not simple as just take a few pictures, buy some furniture, and put it up on Airbnb, and boom, you got you got this wicked place to rent out. Like, what was that whole process like?
Yeah, I think like when we made that decision, I think the good thing is, like, we just thought through, like, I don't know, our mindset's usually like, what's the worst thing that can happen?
Yeah.
So everything's usually not as bad as you think. Like, I don't know, that's just a lot of the things that my dad says to me when I'm, like, complaining or like, oh my gosh, like, everything's horrible. So, like, if you think about it, if that didn't work, we could have turned it into, like, a medium-term rental, furnished rental, like, or sell the stuff. So it's really not that bad if it didn't work. So in terms of the risk, it wasn't too much. And then, like, upfront costs, not like buying furniture. It's not like it's massive units, so it's not like it's a big investment. But yeah, I think this is where the things where it, like, we had to realize, like, don't, like, kill ourselves, don't, rush things, because we would start setting up the Airbnb, and thankfully we have, like, an amazing interior decorator who I've got to plug is my friend. Her company is, what is it, Han Home Studios, which she furnishes all of our Airbnbs. So
nice.
Like, we had a lot of,
what's the name again?
Han Home Studios, another Asian person. So we got
shout out to Han Home Studios.
Yeah. Her name's Jennifer Huynh. She's great, and she, like, helped us a lot. So, like, she did a lot of research, like, helped us figure out, like, how to furnish it. Found, like, budget friendly, like, kind of designs, furniture. So there's that piece, but then also, like, figuring out, like what makes it different? Why will people come to this property or come to this location? And then so we started furnishing it. And then one of the things we did is like test it ourselves with my friend to see like, are we missing anything? Does it actually work? Like, what are the things people are going to notice? But through that, you realize that like what you originally thought you needed or thought you had, like you might be missing something. So it took us like many tries to like figure out what we needed. Was it right? So we probably took longer than most people to actually set it up. But that was one of the things where it's like, if it's not ready, like on the 1st of the month and we took like an extra 2 weeks, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
And just kind of giving ourselves that, you know, flexibility, especially when we are still working our 9 to 5. So we're going on like weekends or nights to furnish this stuff. So I think it's just like a lot of trial and error, and just being patient with ourselves is like kind of how we figured it out. But yeah, like it was a little bit slow at first, and sometimes we thought that it might not work. But I think through just like trial and error, we slowly figured it out, and so far so good.
Yeah.
Has it surprised you, or has it been kind of what you expected?
It's been surprising, I think.
I think surprising,
Okay.
as like it is doing like pretty well. And I don't know, I think my personality is I always think everything will work out. So I never really think that it's probably bad, but I don't think that we're gonna like crash and burn.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if it might not be as good, we'll figure it out. So I think I had like optimistic, you know, like I was pretty optimistic for us.
Yeah.
But it's nice to see that it actually has confirmed what we thought. So overall, it's good, but I just don't want to jinx things.
Yeah. I mean, just to also back up quickly, right? I think it was also necessity that we need to shift towards this, right? Like, I mean, especially when you buy like 4 properties in such a short period of time, and you're thinking of putting them up for long-term rentals, like especially with all the interest rate hikes, right? Like you can only sustain so much negative cash flow for such a long time, right? So for us, it was really like, we got to pivot. If it doesn't work, like we got to try something else. Like there's no other alternative, right? Or we might have to, like, I you know, we're lucky enough not to be in a position where we need to sell or anything like that. But it was just like, we needed to do something, right? And thankfully, I think Brittany has taken such a great lead on doing the Airbnb stuff. And, you know, a lot of the stuff, yeah, she is right. Like it took longer than expected, but we needed to get it right the first time, right? Like, especially figuring out how to price things like dynamically, how to like, you know, like I'm sure you guys are probably heard about like the first few weeks on Airbnb. They're very much key time periods, right? You have to get everything right. You have to get the ratings right. You know, so that the algorithm favors you guys, right? To be like, you know, well listed, right? So a lot of these things we had to talk through, and you know, after doing it right the first time, it's a lot easier to apply to your other properties, right? As you launch more or Airbnbs in the future.
I think it's just kudos to all the hard work you put in there, right?
Exactly.
Like you said, building your team, finding people that will be able to help you and put it together, experts that will be able to guide you from mentorship to your designer friend to your contractor friends and your handyman, right? Or handy people for all the woke people out there now.
So your Airbnb is like a business, right? To me, that's a business.
Definitely.
So how do you guys, from a relationship standpoint, manage a business? You know, Gordon, I heard you said Brittany kind of is running the show for the Airbnb. Is that what, did I hear that correctly?
But before all this running the show, Brittany, you were like, I don't want to do any of this stuff. So it's an interesting change.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely been a learning curve. Working together. I would say it's much different working with your partner than I would say, like, you know, working with regular colleagues or friends. You probably, at least, I don't know, for me, I think you try to be, it's like the same as like when you're talking to your partner, or let's say your parents, you're always kind of a little bit nicer to other people because you know you can be like, I don't know, more blunt or more of your true self. So I probably, sometimes it's difficult if I'm being honest.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, like I mean, just full transparency, guys. Like, you know, it's not easy, right? Like, there are times when we're both stressed, like we're both tired, we're both like, you know, just running on fumes, and you know, we get into arguments or disagreements. It's never always like sunshine and rainbows, right?
And we both work from home together in a tiny condo, so we're always together. So at times, you know, there's no separation. But I think at least like it's good that our backgrounds are like different in the sense where Gordon is like accounting, finance, and I am like marketing, branding, like project management, stuff like that. So we can clearly divide some of the tasks. So I think at least like we think we know our roles and responsibilities. But the good thing is like we're like if someone's like, you know, dying from their 9 to 5 on a certain time or a certain day, the other person can try to help pick up the slack because, you know, with our company only having 2 people, we kind of need to know what the other person is working on too. So I wouldn't say it's like we're organized, but I don't think we have like, they're not like solid like lines of division. It's pretty
flexible, right?
It's pretty much just like something needs to get done. Who's dying the least?
I like that. That's a good analogy.
So
it's funny. It applies to like our, you know, like who has time to cook? Like, let's do that.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just all about balancing, right? So
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Jennifer.
So does like one person have typical responsibilities and the other person has other typical responsibilities? Like kind of like does the lead in certain areas of the business?
Yeah, for sure. I think like I would say I'm the lead for like Airbnbs, like property management, social media.
Yeah.
Gordon is definitely the lead for all things finance, like accounting.
Yeah, like just any numbers,
contract
like,
management.
Yeah, like contractors, dealing with like the conversions. Like there's a little bit of management associated with that, and then
that's why I was like secretly laughing when I think earlier when you guys were talking about like, you know, taking risks, and I'm like, Gordon does all the numbers, and I'm just like, I just trust whatever you say. I find the properties. This is what we need to do once we have them. But I'm like, I have no idea what's happening with the numbers. So if you say it's good and we can buy it, then let's
buy it.
Yeah, and I'm just like, everything's fine. So I probably, you know, put too much trust and too much pressure on him on that. But so far it's working.
Well, yeah, I mean, you guys work to each other's strengths, right? And I think that's not a bad thing. Like for us, you know, I'm probably more the numbers person and he's kind of more the people's person. So he's very good with managing contractors, networking, because we all love networking.
Oh, we could go down a rabbit hole on that one.
Like that's his strength, right? And for me, that's not my strength. I can kind of do it, but it's definitely not my strength.
Yeah, no, it's true, right? Like we all try to play to our strengths, and I think something that we heard when we were in this mentorship program with you guys was you figure out what you're good at and run with that, because it's in school it was like, oh, you're not good at arithmetic, so we're going to practice and practice and practice more at arithmetic and try to develop a skill that naturally you're not really great at. It was like build up that weakness rather than enhance the strength.
Yeah.
Right. And kind of run with that. Whereas I wished I learned that when I was younger versus like trying to figure it out now at our age. It's like, oh, okay. I've been spending the time all wrong. So,
yeah.
But I think the whole thing why we wanted to kind of share this whole story was, you know, walk people down this path of different journeys. And like yours is really cool because we saw you, like you mentioned, buying 4 properties, and we've kind of gone with you to see your properties before too, right? And we thank you so much for like bringing us along and kind of sharing the vision to us, and just being able to take the reins and say like, hey, this was our goal, this is how we're going to get there, and putting the steps in place. And then sometimes that plan gets kind of, sidetracked because of whatever things we can't control.
Yeah.
Right. But the things you can control are obviously the actions and the motions you put in play. So everything you just mentioned. So it's like
Pivoting,
right? I do. Okay. Before we kind of like start wrapping this up, I do want to go back to this whole passive income thing, right? And kind of blow some smoke here, because we've had some really good chats offline about this, and with other people as well. So you've seen all this passive income. Britt, I want to ask you about this passive income idea. So was passive income to you the idea that I make enough passive income and it would replace my income and not have to work again? Is that something you've discovered? Can you still achieve it, or is it just how you achieve is a bit different given the environment?
Yeah, I would say it's exactly what you said. Like, I think it's possible, but like we definitely have to change our strategy. I think when Gordon, pitched this to me before, he's like, yeah, we get these properties, we do the conversion, and then
you're drowning in money.
Yeah, you're drowning because you're going to be making so much cash flow just from like the rent, which is clearly not what's happening right now. So I think we've had to make adjustments to our strategy to help us be cash flow positive on some of our properties, but it's definitely not passive. Like we actively need to like dedicate time to it. So I think it's something that in the future we could continue to do, and like maybe eventually not have to work a typical 9 to 5, but it's not like you just set it and forget it and then you're just like drowning in money. Like you definitely have to do some work for it.
Yeah. And what I've noticed as well is that the building part of passive income, like the earlier stages, are completely active. It's so active, whether it's like investing or business building, like you are always in it, always trying to create systems and create process to make it eventually passive, like you were mentioning, right, Britt? Whereas right now, I just wish that the way it was sold on social media wasn't just like, oh, you do this and it's passive. Because
I don't know why they call it passive.
It's never passive.
It's not the right word.
Yeah.
I don't know why they even like why do they call it passive income?
It should be reliable, reoccurring something.
Yeah. That's just the wrong word to use.
Yeah. But it is possible. Like it's possible, right? Where you see people that have established like their businesses or their investments throughout many, many years, through many cycles. And like you're mentioning, done all these iterations and figured it out and put things in place. Yeah. And one day, I guarantee you guys, your business will be so passive. Like
we just watched the new movie, the one with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck.
Oh, Air.
On Air, on how Michael Jordan signed the deal with Nike to design Air Jordans, essentially the brand Air Jordan.
This is a spoiler alert, so if you haven't seen Air, but the whole idea,
and that's passive. That's truly passive income, because for every every merchandise that is sold with the Air Jordan name, he gets a percentage of the sales.
Yeah, so
now that is truly passive income.
that was just smart in terms of how they structured contracts, right?
Yeah, like
it's always about. I've always said, like, you should always be buying equity, right, versus straight up like money right now, because the equity down the road creates the bigger wealth piece, right? And I guess like now, all the things that you guys have done, right? Like what's next for you guys? Like how does Team Grit kind of move from here? Is it continuing to grow the empire with like Airbnbs right now and like what you're doing? Because you're not doing arbitrage, right? It's not arbitrage Airbnb, which is totally different.
Yeah.
Shout out to Terry, who we just interviewed about arbitrage. But like, what are you guys thinking of next? Like, what's the magic potion for you guys?
I can give like, I guess, the short term objectives.
Sure, yeah.
I don't know what the long term are, so you can take that one.
Make something up.
Yeah. But I think for us, it's really like we still have one project that's still like in the process of renovation. So we're just trying to stabilize that and
Yeah.
like, you know, finish that off, get that rented, and then set up one more Airbnb. So I think we're probably just focusing on that, probably not trying to acquire anything.
Yeah.
Just, yeah, for once, just stabilizing.
And you know what? I think this is great because I do want to make a very good point to people about this if they're listening, right? The last 2 years, last 10 years, you could buy properties and really kind of create this whole like BRRRR and recycle velocity of money thing. And it was pushed to say like, no, you must be always like churning your money. You must be buying 3 properties at a time or whatever it was, right? 10x everything. But at some point, there's these things that we can't control: COVID, interest rates, environments that we can't control, but we can kind of see. And really, it's okay to just be taking smaller steps sometimes to sometimes just really build to that bigger step. Because when we jump too much, it's like sometimes we'll miss a step, right? And it's okay, but you can only do so many times before you're like you were mentioning, like how many of these could I take on before I can't even enjoy myself, right? Because you're just so busy. So kudos to you guys for, hey, slowing down a little bit and stabilizing what you have. Because hopefully anyone that's listening to this and just wants to go gung-ho, hey, if you want to do it, go ahead. But there's nothing wrong with just taking like very deliberate small steps to get there. Because there's this whole journey, right? I think we were sold like, hey, we can do this all in 1 year, 2 years, and it'd be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Some people have made it work, right?
Yep.
But others that we don't see a lot anymore have crashed and burned, right? And this is not a slight to anyone, right? But it's true. It happens. There's 2 sides of it. So,
Nothing wrong with slowing down.
yeah, well, because then you get to go enjoy stuff that like makes your everyday rich, like right now, like everyday rich. For Jen posted something on her social threads. Whoever's joined threads, shout out to Mark Zuckerberg. He's a genius. Facebook stock ticker META Meta. But like she was like saying, my everyday rich is a black coffee in the morning, or it could be a refreshing salad in the summer. I'm like, what salad is not refreshing? sorry. I'm leading to something here. But for you guys now, like what's everyday rich for you guys like right now?
I think for me, it always comes down to freedom of time, right? Like if we have the ability to do what we want, whenever we want, like that's our everyday rich, right? Be able to just like enjoy like going out to whatever restaurant we want. And
dim sum?
Dim sum, of course. Always dim sum. That's it for me, right?
I think for me, that I don't have like, I don't know, crazy goals. It was just, I always said to Gordon, it's like, I want to eat what I want. Like if I want oysters, like on a Tuesday, and I want to smash 100, I'm going to go do it.
Mm-hmm.
If you want Yasu on a Wednesday.
Yasu.
I want to go travel, whatever I want, and then not having to feel like restricted or guilty because I just want to indulge in these things and like and be able to, you know, indulge in experiences and buy my cat toys as much as I want. So, and go to Raptors games, just like being able to do experiences and not feel like we have to hold out.
Exactly.
So that's always what I wanted. I'm like, I don't know how we'll get all that money. So Gordon has helped us figure it out. So we'll slowly just continue building on that so we can just do what we want, eat what we want, go where we want.
Let the number guys figure it out, right?
Exactly.
That's right.
Right. Okay, cool. So as we wrap up, we kind of have this like crazy rich Asian segment that we like to ask our guests.
Okay.
All right. So the first one, and I know both you guys have kind of like a different childhood, right? But I'm just going to take a stab at this. Gord, did you ever say "I love you" to your parents when you were growing up?
No, that was forbidden. It's typical.
Has it
Asian.
even happened now?
No. It's like, not that I don't, guys. Don't take that the wrong way, but it's more like we don't say that, right?
Yeah.
You love them, but
Yeah.
yeah.
We do it through what's it called, like
Buying food.
yeah,
Food.
buying food.
Acts of service.
Acts of service,
Yeah.
exactly. Different
Cutting-
love language, right?
Cutting fruit.
Yeah.
Exactly. Cutting oranges.
Yeah.
Getting A+ in school.
Yeah.
That's how you do it.
They see you, they're like, "Oh, you're so skinny. Come on, like you gotta get fat. Come on, eat more, eat more, eat more,
Yeah.
eat more, eat more, eat more." Okay, all right,
That's right.
Britt. Did you ever hug your parents growing up?
I think maybe not so much when we were younger, but definitely now. I would say my parents have been way more westernized, and I don't really know where it clicked. But I remember even just like, this is why I'm like an awful and very awkward hugger, because we clearly didn't do it growing up. But I think, I don't know, in our adulthood, my parents became way more like chill, open, and westernized, that I think the first time my mom like proactively said to me, like, "I love you," I like almost cried. So I don't know what's going on.
It's the weight off
I
your
don't
shoulders.
know what, yeah. Now
What?
she says all the time, and I'm like, okay, this is weird. And she's like, says it to all of us, like Gordon, my brother, and my sister-in-law. So I'm like, okay, you guys are weird now.
What is this wet water coming from my eyes?
Is this sweat?
Yeah, I
sweat. My
don't
eyes are
understand
sweating.
that feeling. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. So would you prefer dim sum or hot pot?
Ooh,
Dim sum.
dim sum, yeah.
Mm.
Well, hot pot in the winter for me. I'd rather-
Unpopular opinion, I don't really like hot pot, so always dim sum.
What?
Good choice.
Oh, then why do we even have hot pot when you came to our house?
Because everyone
Just to
loves
be
it,
nice.
and I don't want to be weird.
Should have just told us.
That's why she didn't hug you.
Oh.
That's why I just stuck to the wine.
Good choices on wine, by the way. Okay, cool. So then, you mentioned oysters. You pick oysters over lobster?
Okay, correction. I want to have all of it.
Ah, good,
okay.
good choice. Good choice. Good choice. Good choice.
I
Okay.
actually prefer oysters.
Yeah.
I think lobster's too much work.
Yeah,
I agree.
Right?
Way too
bro.
much.
Anything
Yeah.
in life takes a lot of work. Come on, like.
Not eating lobster.
Okay.
Talk about passive income. Work for passive income. I won't work for lobster.
Yeah,
you're-
you're gonna have Jason break apart the lobster for you.
You know the big chunk that comes out. It's like
Yeah.
just all meat. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah. Here you
That's
go,
what I
Jennifer.
want.
That's the
Well,
one you
or
get.
the
Yeah,
tail. Yeah.
Yeah.
You get all the other pieces.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so if there was one era of basketball you wish you could have saw live on the Raptors, what would it be? Like which Raptor would you want to go see?
Ooh.
For Raptors?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But like we saw like the best is well, I guess yeah,
Vince Carter.
Carter, and like being able to remember that a little bit more.
Yeah.
But like we
Okay, which NBA star? Which NBA star would you want to go see? Like dead or alive?
Oh, like probably Kobe or
Kobe.
Jordan.
I think
Yeah.
I did see him, but it was like at the end of his career. But yeah, I would say like Kobe and Shaq together.
Oh wow, that's a good one.
Oh yeah, that's
Oh,
a good
yeah.
era. Yeah, that's a good era.
That's a good era.
I've learned so much just from hearing you guys talk
Yeah.
about like your process and kind of how you guys divide like your roles and responsibilities. Because I think more and more people work like. Listen, we live together. You know, you have a lot of time spent with your spouses and stuff, and this thing is a journey together, as opposed to like, oh, you do your thing, I do my thing.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously everyone has their own interests, but at some common ground where you want to grow together, because doing all those things by yourself can be frustrating and hard, and having someone to like back you up, like you said, when you like who's dying the least, right? Pick up the slack, really goes a long way. And similar to like, what's all this money and wealth if you can't share the experience with someone, right? Traveling by yourself sucks. So I don't know about you.
Some people like to travel solo.
I don't care. It still sucks. where can people find you and creep you on your DMs or whatever, slide in your DMs?
Instagram, probably.
Yeah. Team Grit Properties, like at Team Grit Properties for all of our real estate stuff, and then for Gordon's mortgage.
Yeah, Gordon Leung Mortgages.
Okay, cool.
Very-
Yeah.
Yeah, very
All right.
straightforward.
Yeah.
All right. We'll put that down there. So we end this off with our Crazy Rich Asian segment, and now it's like we're ending off our living room conversations. So if there was a conversation that you wanted someone else to hear or start a conversation about, what would it be for those people who haven't really kind of decided to take that leap of, going down investing?
This is a tough question. Like, you could have at least given us a heads up.
Sorry, man. This is a conversation.
Can you repeat that again?
Okay. What would you tell?
We stall in an interview.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would you tell someone just starting out investing? What would you tell them to focus on? What was the one thing you tell them to do?
Oh, yeah. I'll buy you some time, but I would say for me, it's like being comfortable with debt, right? Like I think I explained that a few times in a few of my other videos and stuff. But before, I was just very much allergic to debt, and maybe it was an Asian thing, and I was always trying to pay down debt as quickly as possible. Never want to owe people money, never want to owe banks money, all that, and now it's like shifting the mentality towards leveraging debt and using that to buy assets, right?
Yeah.
I think that was like a big game-changing moment for me from a mindset perspective.
I guess I would say, like, to not get stuck doing like analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
It's just like, if you feel like you're not ready, like, or you're just unsure, like, it's not bad to just like partner with someone. Like, that's what we did. So at least then you can kind of know what to do. Like, you have someone that has experience and they can kind of help you get through it. And then also it's just, or even just like dive into like a coaching or mentorship program, right? Like, and then when you feel comfortable taking the action, like someone can guide you through it as well. It's just do something instead of just like listening to podcasts and just YouTube videos. It's like, what's the point if you're just gonna just listen to these things and not do anything? So whatever is the most comfortable for you to actually push you to take action, I would just say do that.
Yeah, just do it.
Just do it.
You're never going to be like what Jason was saying, right? You're never going to be 100% ready, right? There's always going to be an element of surprise that you can't forecast or hasn't caught your mind, and especially with properties, right? There's always something different. So might as well take action, right? Instead of sitting around.
So fitting. Just do it. Just like the Air
Just
Jordan.
like Air Jordan.
Yeah.
Is this sponsored by Michael Jordan?
Oh, hey, listen, Mike, MJ, you just sold the Charlotte Bobcats for like $2.1 billion or whatever the hell it was. So, hey, drop us a few bucks, okay?
Yeah.
That's awesome. No, thank you guys. That was great advice. If you guys have enjoyed this conversation and found it helpful, maybe what something Gordie and Brit mentioned was like, oh, damn, that's true. It's something that I was thinking about but never really thought of doing. Then give us a thumbs up, like, subscribe, share, whatever, all those things you do on social and YouTube and all that stuff and Spotify. But thanks for the support. Appreciate all the 9 listeners I think we have now. And we will be back again with hopefully some other guests. And yeah, we never really know how to end this properly. So guys, I have no idea. It's always different every single time.
I would say throw that question in ChatGPT. Ask it like, what's a closing, monologue for a podcast? It's so good. Honestly, so good. I was like, how do I respond to this guest feedback? I just threw that in ChatGPT and it wrote me up like a great description. So you don't know, ChatGPT.
See,
Alrighty.
Look at these youngsters. Always got to school the elder statesman. All right, thanks guys. Appreciate it so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, cheers.
Bye, guys.
Your Everyday Rich podcast is presented solely for general informational, educational, and entertainment purposes. Any such information or other material should not be construed as legal, tax, investment, financial, or other advice. It is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a qualified professional.